Russell, I suppose the thing is that, as we were hearing a bit earlier on, there is this kind of feeling in the gossipy corridors of power that there might be a May election. Yes, and I think it's become a bit more interesting today on the basis that the budget has been announced for March the 6th, which is slightly earlier than usual. And on that basis, you know, some of us, some political conspiracy theorists might think, well, hang on, maybe March then is the time that they're going to start giving all of these tax incentives as election bribes to us all, with a view, therefore, to laying the foundations for a May election. Now, I think they'd be mad to go in May, because I don't think there won't be enough in terms of collateral, ammunition, kudos really, before then, to really kind of hit home to voters in terms of Rishi being able to get somewhere near achieving those famous, fabled 5 pledges of his, particularly on the economy. I think he needs all of next year to do that, particularly if we want to start seeing some growth in the economy, which at the moment we are not seeing, despite his pledges. Well, Alicia Fitzgerald is here in the studio. And yes, it's funny, isn't it? As soon as Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, made those 5 pledges, there will have been lots of people who said, why, oh why, oh why, don't make the pledges. Say that these are the general areas we're going to look at, but no, don't make any pledges on anything, not now.
Well, it's quite funny, because when he made the pledges, I remember lots of people actually saying that they were the easiest pledges ever, because he'd used such broad language. You know, stop the boats was probably the only one that was really, really specific, as well as halving inflation. Lots of the others were quite vague, so it just meant that he had a bit of room for improvement on whichever way you want to look at it. And the fact that he now actually hasn't achieved any of them actually doesn't look so great, does it? Well,
and also, when it comes to those pledges specifically, there were, you know, at least 2 or 3 out of the 5 that he actually doesn't have any control over. You know, I know he's now trying to take credit for the fact that inflation has halved. You know, we're now below 4% for the first time in a couple of years. But because the Bank of England is independent and the government really has no sway over the Bank of England's policy, I mean, basically all they have to do is make sure that they do whatever they can to get inflation down by way of interest rates. Rishi Sunak is now taking the credit, but actually really, in my opinion, has no right to do so.
And also, we've got to remember why we had that sudden runaway inflation in the first place, which I believe was a certain Mr. Putin invading Ukraine.
Yes. Exactly. Lots of people are saying that pretty much the only reason that inflation is down now is because that has all evened out a little bit. The cost of oil, the cost of gas and all of this, it's just naturally a bit lower just because of the way these events have played out. So lots of people are saying that Rishi Sunak was just blowing his own trumpet.
And of course, the dichotomy is that because we've had high inflation and therefore the Bank of England have acted to increase interest rates so frequently, so 14 times in about 15 or 16 months, we now have trouble in the economy in terms of growth, you know, GDP. So one of the pledges that Rishi has made, apart from inflation and, you know, NHS waiting lists being cut and so on, is growth in the economy. But those 2 things, controlling inflation and growth, are diametrically opposed. So how's he going to square that circle?
No, really, really good point. By helping one, you actually naturally really destroy your chances with the other one. So it's a bit of a juggling act between the 2.
Pretty stupid pledges.
Let's just remember, he hasn't done either of them. So, well, technically not himself anyway.
No, and again, as we come back to Russell's point, you know, the inflation part was nothing to do with him anyway. So, you know, he can crow all he likes. I think the difference is, though, isn't it, is that, I mean, the whole thing about politicians is that you claim what you can. And then you hope that people actually haven't thought about the reason why. Isn't that the point?
Definitely, and that's something that is really happening at the moment. Rishi Sunak is often being criticised for sort of forgetting the fact that his party have been in power for so long. He'll say, we'll reverse this, we'll reverse that, we'll sort this out, and everyone goes, hang on, wasn't it you who made the decision to do that in the first place? So that's something that he's going to really have to change in the new year, definitely running up to the next election, because people will start to see through that.
Yeah.